Hello, welcome to another Becoming a Modern Man. We are playing Mardu Shadow once again. There's been a bit of a break in between recording these videos due to being busy. But in the meantime, Mardu Shadow has put up some pretty good results. It actually won Grand Prix Birmingham. So that certainly makes it a lot more topical than it was when I was originally playing this deck. Yeah, we are running up against a fairly traditional green-red Tron build. Sort of fairly old school, with Grow of the Burn Willows, etc. But still Tron, so still got the same sort of things going on, but maybe a more sort of classic version without the Khan the Great Creator package, etc. Which seems to be doing a little bit better in a Hogak world than the new package. So this is our opening hand. It's not the most exciting, but we've got some hand disruption, we've got some Tide Hollow Skullers, we've got some Cyclods or cantrips, so willing to run with this. Well, he's with a tower and an expedition map, which is a fairly scary start. We're going to cycle our Street Wraith at the end of turn, draws into another Sculler, and then we draw a Arid Mesa. Fetch of Godless Shrine. And yeah, we definitely should have a second Godless Shrine in the deck, as I've pointed out previously. So opponent's hand is Scrying and Chromatic Star, with the Groan of the Burn Willows and a World Breaker. So they don't have a second Tron piece, so that's good to see. I think we're going to take the Sylvan Scrying here, because that will allow them to find the third Tron piece, even if they don't just randomly draw one. So I guess we'll take Scrying, as that's our best bet of putting them off turn 3 Tron. Pump the Grove, Chromatic Star, pass this a turn, which isn't too bad for us. So yeah, we would probably fetch up a Godless Shrine there. I definitely should have built the deck properly. I kind of cut a corner there, but it's not the end of the world here. So, Tidal Scholar, we seize World Breaker and Ulamog. I guess we could take World Breaker here, because Ulamog is further off. But obviously both are concerning long term. But at the minute, it's not a terrible position to be in. Opponent searches up an Urza's Mine with the Expedition map. I don't know whether they've drawn another Tron land, or they're just guessing at this point, but I suppose they don't want to miss their land drops. We can find out by dropping another Sculler. So yeah, they've got the power plant, so they are going to have Tron online next turn. And we are not really getting off to a very speedy start, so this is not great for us. We're going to take Ulamog, hope that they don't get anything worthwhile. Just going to drop the Spell Bomb into play. There's no point Inquisitioning, given that we know what's in their hand. We can cast Fire Spout, which is kind of unusual. As I say, this is kind of a classic version. But yeah, Pyroclasms and Fire Spouts are kind of uncommon in Tron these days. Mostly mono-green versions we'll see, but yeah, so we're actually going to get board wiped here, which is pretty awful for us. It gives our opponent back their fatties, which is certainly going to be problematic. So the second Sculler can take back World Breaker. Well, actually, what do we take Ulamog here? So what, 7, 8? I mean, I guess we. I mean, we're in a pretty bad position either way. We're gonna get rid of the Spell Bomb just to draw an extra card. Maybe we should have Spell Bombed first. I don't know. So I'm putting this World Breaker, which is going to kill the Tide Hollow Skull. I don't know why I didn't take the World Breaker in hindsight. Maybe that was just a misclick. And play the Chromatic Star. So they have 7, 8, 9 mana. So potentially we could be getting Ulamog next turn. Draw Path to Exile, but I decide to give it up here. I can't really see a good way of winning the game from here. Given what we know is in our opponent's hand, Ulamog's going to be coming down very shortly, and I don't think there's any way we can really deal with that. So Yeah, ultimately our hand was just too slow. Our opponent didn't even get off to a particularly quick start, but we just didn't get anywhere. We never really disrupted our opponent enough, and yeah, this ended fairly badly for game one. So let's check out the sideboards. Okay, so here we are with the sideboards. So we're playing against Tron, classic Tron. So Fulminate Mages certainly want to come in. That's always good to be able to disrupt their Tron lands. After that, we don't really have a ton. I suppose Wear and Tear we might want to bring in just to see if we can snag some artifacts potentially. Leyland doesn't really do anything. Liliana's not particularly good. Plague Engineer is pretty bad, and Celestial Purge doesn't really do anything. So yeah, I guess it's really just bringing in Fulminators and Wear Tears. In terms of things we want to take out, we can probably cut down on our sort of spot removal for the most part. Maybe keeping the pass, because at least that gives us a way to answer some of the Eldrazi, etc., some of the bigger, scarier threats that they might have, but I think we can probably cut on the fatal pushes and maybe some number of paths as well. We don't want to have too much spot removal in this situation. Still want Team of Battle Rage, we want to kill our opponent as fast as possible, and everything else seems relatively good. So yeah, just cutting really down on spot removal, bringing in Fulminators, and potentially some Wear Tears as well. Okay, so here we are with game 2. This is our opening hand. We've got Double Street Wraith, Tidehole Scholar, Inquisition. Not the most exciting, but I think we can probably run with this. Maybe that's my problem with this deck. I mean, I haven't done overly well. Maybe I'm keeping hands that maybe I shouldn't, but it seems like a reasonable hand. And the 2 Street Wraith Droids into a Ranger and an Angler, which isn't too bad. Inquisition fine, Scrying, Oblivion Stone, Chromatic Star for our opponent. So we know we can Tidehole Scholar our opponent next turn, so the question is, do we take the Chromatic Star just so they don't have a play next turn? Obviously we are concerned about the Sylvan Scrying, given that they've got a power plant and a tower, and Oblivion Stone might be a long-term problem. But yeah, I think we're going to take the Chromatic Star just so they haven't got anything to do next turn, and they can't just efficiently cast Sylvan Scrying. So opponent leads with Grove of the Burn Willows, which is obviously good with it for us. Presumably just to make sure that they get their green source for a Sylvan Scrying next turn. Although, oh, they have the Chromatic Sphere. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Not really sure why they led off with the Grove of the Burn Willows in that situation. So we draw another Sculler, so we can continue to hand disrupt our opponent. Obviously going to take the Scrying here. Obviously now we have an answer to Oblivion Stone as well. Opponent plays Power Plant. Gains us a life, I think, just to make sure that we weaken our Death Shadow. Certainly is an interaction with Grove that's interesting here. So we give our Fulminator Mage, which is nice. I'm not going to cast it just yet. We're going to Tidehole Scholar because there's no risk of our opponent getting Tron online just yet. So we've got Ugin and Oblivion Stone. Both are potentially problematic, but I think we're just going to take the Stone here, given that we're going to try at least to put our opponent off Tron with Fulminator Mage. So attack for 2. That's back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're not quite at Gomag Angler. Angler doesn't feel the best here. It's without like Thought Scour or anything to really power up the delve. It's not the most exciting early doors. So I'm going to attack for 4 here. And I guess we're going to run out this Bauble. And the Fulminator Mage. Just make sure our opponent doesn't accidentally get Tron. So I'll drop the Power Plant, it doesn't really matter. Opponent Surgical's Fulminator Mage, which is absolutely fine. It also means they didn't draw anything particularly exciting on their turn, so I think we're fine with that. So they can exile our 3 Fulminator Mages, but it's not really a huge problem for us, and we've set them back quite a way. Plays Ancient Stirrings, finds Urza's Mine, but fortunately we have disrupted their ability to put Tron together. So that's not going to hurt us too badly. Let's attack for 4 here. We're putting down to 8. We're going to run out an Angler, and we can run out a Ranger. We can also sack the Ranger if we want on our opponent's turn to make sure they don't cast anything of interest. And then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you've got 9 points of damage. So yeah, I guess we just sack Ranger on our opponent's upkeep, and then making sure they can't really cast anything interesting, and that should do it. I guess they could draw Tron land, in which case, I mean, well, specifically, easy for me to say, specifically Urza's Power Plant, I guess, would allow them to cast Ugin, but then we still got an Angler, so not in the worst position. So yeah, I think things are looking pretty good, but I think we actually they couldn't cast Ugin through Ranger, could they? So yeah, they have to draw Tron land and also have a creature that they could cast, which I'm fairly confident they don't or aren't going to be able to do that. So yeah, we sack the Ranger, prevent our opponent from casting anything, draw off Mithra's Bauble, and our opponent concedes. So yeah, that's certainly how we want things to go. Obviously, ideally, we'd probably get a Death Shadow out a little bit quicker, and maybe we should have played for that more with our opening hand, but this worked out. We managed to disrupt our opponent enough. The Fulminator Mage did its job and saw our opponent off Tron, and then we will manage to wrap up the game with our creatures. Okay, so here we are with game 3. This is our opening hand. It's not particularly good. Another bunch of Death Shadows, but we don't have any way to lose life other than this silent clearing, which is going to be a very slow way of going about it. We are going to be on the draw, but I still think this hand's not a keeper. Not really a keeper. This hand also isn't terribly good. I mean, we've got double Thoughtseize, which is nice, into Ranger, into Death Shadow, and we can lose a lot of life with this hand, I guess. So I guess we can keep this. I assume we're pitching the Sacred Foundry to the bottom, because we can lose a lot more life with these fetch lands. Put Urza's Mine into Chromatic Star. Draw Hex Parasite, which isn't the best. Maybe we could decide that out, I don't really know. I mean, Hex Parasite can be very good in that it can just reduce your life total really low, and if you've got Death Shadow to combine with that, that's pretty nice. So our opponent has Nature's Claim, which is awkwardly good against Hex Parasite. Ancient Stirrings and Sylvan Scrying. So I guess we need to take the Scrying, because next turn... Actually, it's double Urza's Mine, so actually we don't need to take the Scrying. We could take the Ancient Stirrings instead. I think we're probably still going to end up taking the Scrying, just to make sure that they don't put together Tron, because any Tron piece off the top would allow them to ensure they have the relevant pieces. So I guess that makes sense as the pick. We place Grove into Ancient Stirrings, revealing the game log up. Show game log. I might freak out now. Okay, let's just leave it. I believe that they put a Tron piece into their hand. I assume it'll be the tower. I forget how these things work. Okay, so yeah, they only reveal the last card. So okay, so they put tower into their hand. So we get to Thoughtseize again, and we drew another Thoughtseize. So we can take the Ancient Stirrings, another Ancient Stirrings here. We can also take the Nature's Claim. Although I like that considerably less, but it does allow us to cast this Hex Parasite, and it continues to reduce our life total, which I guess is useful in its own little way. So I put this hand is Tower Mine. have Sylvan Scrying, which is going to allow them to get the power plant they need. We've got Tron online next turn. And yeah, I can't help but feel our deck is running a little bit slow compared to what our opponent can do. So Ranger searches up a Death Shadow. And yeah, so our opponent's going to have Tron online. We've seen their hand, it's not the most exciting at the moment. Obviously anything could potentially change that. I don't remember if I sack Ranger. I think I take the risk on them not having anything too exciting here. The other thing I was conscious of was that they potentially have Walking Ballista, so even though we can go very sacrificial, it's potentially a risk in that they can just cast a Walking Ballista and then just kill us from there. So attack for 3 here. Going to cast Death Shadow and the Hex Parasite, and potentially set up for a pretty big attack next turn. It's not quite going to be lethal, unfortunately. But I'm going to sack the Ranger to be careful. So opponent doesn't have any follow-up plays. I'm going to draw a card off the Silent Clearing. I suppose I could just have pinged myself for 1 life, but this is fine. We can lose as much life as we want. Draw Street Race, so we're going to cycle that. That finds us another Death Shadow. Draw a card off Silent Clearing, which finds us another Silent Clearing. I'm going to attack here for 7. I'm just going to gain his life with Grove, just to reduce the damage. I think about reducing my life total more to hit our opponent as hard as possible. I decided against it because I was thinking about the Walking Ballista and potentially just being got by that. So I decided not to go through with that plan. Just hit our opponent for 6. And I also thought about whether I should play this Death Shadow or not for quite a long time. I decided to run it out on the risk that our opponent has like a Khan liberated or something and just exiles the Death Shadow. But I suppose the other side of that coin is that they might have an Oblivion Stone, or they might have a Ugin. So it ends up they have Ugin and have a Sanctum of Ugin that they can exile and find Kozilek, which is an unusual card, but there you go. We can actually get at Ugin here, remove his counters, pump the Hex Parasite and kill Ugin. So yeah, I guess in hindsight maybe we shouldn't have played that Death Shadow. I mean, well, certainly in hindsight we shouldn't have played the Death Shadow. I mean, generally there's not nearly as many Ugins as there are Khans and so on, but and Walking Ballistas as well. So I don't really know. I feel like that play's kind of a toss-up. Kind of difficult to say what the right thing to do was. I feel like I had a solid line of reasoning, but I suppose the opposite is also true, that Oblivion Stone and Ugin were bad for us. Whereas if we took this line, whereas alternatively if we took the other line, we would have been in a bad position if Walking Ballista or I guess, yeah, Walking Ballista or Khan Liberated, I guess, would have been pretty bad for us. But maybe the Khan wouldn't have been as bad, in which case we're hedging against Ballista versus Ugin and Oblivion Stone. So maybe that was the right play. Maybe we went wrong there. So I'm going to play Kozilek here, draw 4 cards, which definitely isn't good. Ancient Stirrings gets Khan Liberated, which we were talking about before. So we can exile Kozilek, but our opponent's on 11. Like, I mean, if this is the thing I'm talking about, is that if we'd hit our opponent harder earlier, we might have actually been able to win through this. Like, we could have potentially just used Hex Parasite to beat them down. So yeah, maybe we should have gone all in earlier. I mean, it's another argument for it. I tried to unearth a Ranger Captain, which obviously would have been pretty tasty here. Potentially could have won us the game, because we'd get back Ranger, get a Death Shadow, be able to cast the Death Shadow, and then we can sack the Ranger to prevent our opponent from casting anything other than creatures. Obviously, potentially they could have creatures, given they've just drawn 4 cards, but still puts us in a fairly good position. And we have a path waiting for any creatures. So, unfortunately, our opponent had Surgical to answer that, and things are not looking great for us. Opponent plays Khan, ticks it up. Chromatic Sphere. So we're going to exile some counters from Khan. And we can swing for 4. But our opponent has Nature's Claim, and that deals with our Hex Parasite, unfortunately. And yeah, ultimately that is the game. We are pretty done here. I can't really see a way back from this. So yeah, it was pretty close. I certainly think there was probably a line in there that allowed us to win. I can defend my line of play though, so I don't know if we got unlucky or maybe I should have picked a different route in this game. But yeah, this didn't feel great. It felt like some pretty bad beats against us. The matchup seems kind of difficult, I would say, probably more so than the old Grixis Death Shadow, although I don't really know. I haven't played that deck in a long time. But yeah, that always seemed fairly good, that you'd always sort of run into a Death Shadow and then just beat your opponent down. Maybe we should have played a bit differently. Maybe we should have pushed harder for Death Shadow early, because we never really got that going in any of these matchups. Also, Grove of the Burn Willows is a kind of awkwardly weird card that's actually quite irritating for Death Shadow, which, yeah, I mean, you won't run into green-red Tron very regularly. But yeah, this matchup just didn't feel great overall, and yeah, it was close, but probably more close than I would have liked, I think.